This is ride 3. Again, I'm not sharing any of my prep at this point that I do before we get on. I slowly start weaning down on that as we go, but I always start with flexion. We are going to ride in the snaffle again this time. He's at the point where he can do that. I'm not going to waste a time doing any mounting shenanigans here. We're just going to kind of start getting on and going. He's been one of the few colts I have seen that has no issue with forward impulsion. I always want to start with flexion when I get started. I'll continue to do that for a good long while, to be honest with you. He did not seem as soft this time, but he's tired. He actually did a session earlier today, a groundwork session with a client. So, he pulled a double shift, but he's going to get a few days off because the weather's going to be pretty rough again here in the next few hours, actually. I had a ground pole down from earlier session with a client. I left it there. He can start going over that, and I was so pleased. We walked and trotted over it. Not an issue. I have had Mustangs that things touch their feet, and goodness gracious, they become Michael Jordan, so it's really nice that he's not. But, the work has been put in to prep him for these things, too. So again, for sake of time, I'm just going to cut out the boring parts where nothing's really happening. We do a lot of repetition, but I worked him a little bit harder on whoa, and whoa means whoa. It does not mean we're going to shift this way or that way. I did start cracking down on that a bit with him. So that was one thing that we really worked on. Backing up, because we've not done back up with a bit. So we had to work on that a bit. He's starting to actually get a little bit softer in his mouth, which I'm pretty happy about. He will develop that over time. I'm still being pretty forgiving because this is ride 3 at the end of the day, and I think we're going to try to do a trail ride over the weekend. I have a friend that's willing to come and ride one of my other horses out so that he has a lead pony to follow. But you have to, with young horses, if you don't give them the opportunity, I could sit here and ride in this round pen for 10 more rides to really fine-tune this stuff. But I would much rather just start getting him out and exposing him to things, because I want my horses to be very versatile. He really does remind me of Phoenix quite a bit. He's just been once he figures it out, he's great. He's golden. Right there, what I just did, he really wasn't wanting to turn. And he's kind of like, oh, do I stop or do I go? And I pushed him on through it. I'm really starting to use more leg at this point. He's getting better about going right into that trot. I was very, very pleased with this. This was the first time I kind of let him trot over the ground pole. And he lost some impulsion, but he didn't have an accident. And we really didn't have any of those little, happy little accidents, as Bob Ross says. He's been great. He's really been great. And we'll start touching on the backup here in a bit. And so with backup, when I'm teaching a young horse and I'm teaching them the bridle, you got to think about the way a snaffle bit works. And actually, if you raise and widen your hands, that's much easier. You can do the seesaw method. I prefer to let my horses think about it rather than trying to seesaw. If they get stuck, I will seesaw. But he's smart enough and he figured it out, and we didn't have to do that, so I love that. We're probably going to squeeze in a canter here in the next few rides. He's definitely, I don't think he's going to have any kind of problem with it. He has taken to having a rider. I'm really impressed. But again, I put the work into my personal horses. I have the time to do that. It's not like a client horse where I only get so much time and I pretty much have to wave a magic wand and make things happen. Or even, better still with a rescue horse where you really have a very small limited window. And with a rescue horse, you cannot even barely touch on anything besides stop, go, and turn, get down the trail. That's really all you can do with a rescue horse. And that's tough for me because I like to really fine-tune my horses, and I like a soft horse, and I put the work in to get there. And to cut corners is just not something that I'm very good at, unfortunately. I'm a perfectionist, so what can you say? One thing I will say about him is I used a Pessoa on him when I was starting him and as we were starting to ground drive. So I don't know if that's part of it. I haven't had the Pessoa long enough to try it on other horses to really compare. But I will say that he carries himself much more mature. He's not, he knows how to engage his abdominals, and you can feel it. And I swear his trot is just like sitting on a cloud. You really don't even need to post for his trot. I did in this session start doing a small post so that he would get used to that. We worked on our backup. We did everything we needed to do. But like I said, I keep sessions very short starting out. And this was great. So on to the next one.